Tough Enough is the first book ever explicitly written for men in their 20s. So if you want to become a man in your 20s without ruining your 30s, you need to read this. If you know a guy in his 20s, if you love one, if you're raising a guy about to be in his 20s, if you're mentoring one, this book is for you. I wrote it because there's never been a book written for guys in their 20s, and there needs to be one. It's sad that there's never been one before, and I wish I had this book in my 20s. I also wish I had this book in the past when I was mentoring guys in counseling or just one-on-one relationships. I talk to guys all the time, and they're asking me questions like, where do we find good information, like researched back information on things like how do you have a healthy relationship, not just with girls, but also with friends too, and what about making money? Or getting through hard times, or handling your emotions, or what do we do with this pressure to be successful, and what does it look like to trust God? I pray that this book calls men to step up and fully become the best versions of themselves, because that's what the world needs right now. You can order it right now, and if you order early, I'll throw in some freebies too. Today you're going to learn how to chase your dreams, and also what to do when your dreams don't turn out the way you planned. Austin Breedlove is a pitcher in the New York Yankees organization. He's still chasing his dream, and it's going well. Kris Bowman played quarterback in high school and college, but his dream didn't turn out like he thought it would. So both stories start out the same, but take very different paths. They both had to overcome a lot of challenges and adversity, and it made them into two of the best men I know. Let's dive right in.
And then from that third series on, leading the state in on-base percentage, leading this like all of these markers, it's like there wasn't a game where I wasn't on base or didn't have a hit, and so it was high highs.
It was not like that for me hitting, by the way. I was a bad hitter.
I saw you hit a home run.
One. In my entire life, I hit one home run.
Did you really?
One home run.
And I saw it.
Even Little League. Just didn't have the pop.
Okay.
I had the pop when I got stronger, but I had a horrible swing. Very down. That's what they teach.
Yep.
I swear that's what I was taught. Yes. Hit hard line drives, and it never worked. I just hit ground balls.
Yep.
Or struck out. But
ground balls don't get you to the league.
No. No. But I had a hose from right field, so that's why I played. That's honestly the only reason I played.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty fast. I could track a ball down, but kind of took bad routes sometimes. So
When did you stop playing catcher? Because I remember that was ninth grade at least you were playing then, right?
Oh, yeah. Sophomore year, too. I made varsity sophomore year. But then COVID happened, obviously. After COVID, went into junior, or like the summer going into my junior year. I lied. No. I still caught then. Then, after my junior year, I got on a new travel team, and I was pretty much a pitcher. So I didn't catch that entire summer, which, that's a lot of reps I missed out on. And honestly, I loved catching, and it was like I had put so much work into catching that when I started pitching, I was like, man, I just wasted money and time and effort in catching. Mm-hmm. But I really enjoyed pitching, but I didn't start really pitching till the summer of my junior year.
Tell that story, because that's a good one.
Or I guess summer after I pitched a little bit in my junior year, not much. I think it was like 15 innings in relief. And then started pitching a lot in that summer after that junior year on a good travel team. I was on the Georgia Scorpions, and then the guy that was kind of the head of the Georgia Scorpions asked if I wanted to go to Florida and pitch with the Giant scout team, which was still the Scorpions, but it was like their best team. I think they had some injuries, and so I went out there and did well. That was really cool. Faced a lot of future draft picks and college baseball players, and that was at a time where I didn't know if I was going to go play college baseball. So that was really cool. And then pitched a lot my senior year. I was a starter. I got to play outfield too, which I really enjoyed, playing every day rather than just being like a PO in high school. I think that takes a lot of athleticism out of you. Mm-hmm. But I would play outfield, I guess. I don't really remember. Was it Friday and Saturday games?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember
Friday
how.
night and Saturday doubleheader.
Yeah. So I would play outfield first 2 games and pitch the third game.
When your arm is already worn out from making the long throw from right field.
Yeah, so all of that led into me getting hurt at the end of that senior year, sprained a UCL. And I think the main reason for that was recovery. I literally did not sleep at all. I would be up playing video games all night, wake up at 7 a.m. for weights.
And making TikToks too. I remember those days.
I didn't make any TikToks.
You made it.
I made some funny ones. They were never, all right, let's get this straight. They were never the ones that are like cringy.
They weren't cringy.
They were stupid.
No,
they were just me
you
being
made
stupid.
them,
Yeah.
You know?
A couple.
Own them.
And look,
I did make one
right.
of us doing the squeegees on the turf infield and got 12 million views.
Yeah.
So I was famous, all right?
Yeah, look at you.
His crowning achievement in life.
Yeah,
That's right.
what could have been? I could have been a TikTok star, but anyways,
Drafted
that's
by
neither
the
here nor
Yankees
there.
or-
Yeah, but no recovery ever. Definitely, I guess, alcohol played into that a little bit. No sleep. I remember a couple of times actually coming home from school. I would get off the Ooltewah exit to go home, and there's this light at the exit, obviously. And I fell asleep at that light multiple times.
Oh my gosh.
I would fall asleep during class all the time. I would take naps in your office during chapel, especially my senior year, because I could get away with it. But
You were on the edge of the couch all the time, so I was like, he's bound to just roll off
Yeah.
and hit his head. But
I
you
think
never
I'm a
did.
pretty sound sleeper.
You are, yeah. You didn't move.
Yeah, I might twitch a little bit, but I don't like thrash.
Yeah.
But yeah, it made me realize no, it didn't. Until later, I realized now that like me not getting any sleep, like sleep is the biggest part of recovery.
Yeah.
Also, I probably didn't hydrate well. I didn't eat well. I know that. Ate a lot of fast food, but I did that up until probably this year, maybe last year. I was a little bit better at it, but yeah, recovery is, especially sleep, is huge. So
I've heard doctors say if they could put the benefits of sleep in a pill form, that pill would be regulated, like not legal to sell over the counter, just because of how many benefits sleep gives you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean mood, production, focus, anything pretty much that's good, you name it. If you don't have sleep, you're not going to have it. So that made me realize a lot. I started using that Whoop band, track sleep. That made me realize like how bad I was really sleeping.
There were two, and tell me if I'm not remembering this right, but I remember there were two kind of moments in your timeline when you started catching a vision for future baseball stuff. And again, correct me, but the first one I thought was when one of your summer coaches you were catching, and I don't even know if you really thought much about pitching, but I think the coach said something like you could throw 100 miles an hour if you wanted to, like from the mound.
Well,
right?
He said, well, one of them, he kind of said like you could pitch, like you have a good arm, you would be a good pitcher, and that's at a time when I thought I would be a catcher, even though I was terrible at hitting. Anyways,
Delusional.
exactly, that's a good thing.
Exactly.
And then the guy I worked with pitching the most, so I worked with him when I was kind of like 9, 10, 11, and then I stopped pitching. But we were at a tournament one time, and he said, I guess he was kind of dogging on the other guys, and I don't remember how it got brought up, but he was like, none of y'all are going to hit 90 miles an hour, except for maybe Breedlove. And then I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Because at the time, I swear, like
He's talking
when we were younger, like 90 miles an hour was probably league average or around league average. Now, I think league average is 95.6 from a right-hander. Literally 10, 15 years ago, it was probably 91.
You know what changed though? Like partly it is a training, but they clock you now from the release point.
No.
They used to clock you from
It's not.
when it crosses the plate.
But even if you go back then, you can figure it out. And I promise you, what's his name? They did not throw 108.
Who? Chapman?
No. The
Nolan
greatest pitcher.
Ryan?
Yes, he did not throw 108. There's no way.
Well, I think if they clocked him from release point, they would have. But they're at that point
108?
from his hand, yeah.
Trey. You're out of your mind. 108? You know
Well,
how
that's
hard
what
that is?
Yeah. but why did he get so many strikeouts and none of these guys can? And they're throwing
The
one over.
hitters were terrible. Go back and watch a game from the 90s and then go watch a game today.
I don't know. But anyway, back to the vision. You catch the vision for potentially pitching because your coach said you could throw 90. And then I want to hear your vision origins in a minute too. But like, then what? You catch like, oh, maybe I should start pitching, or how did it go from there?
I remember one day we were playing at Bradley Central in a tournament. I think it was summer ball, maybe fall ball. Might have been fall ball. But my coach, who I had been with for like a year or two maybe, was like, hey, how's the wing feeling? And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't pitch. And he was like, well, you could, right? And so I did pitch that day. Did all right, whatever. I think that was the first time I had pitched since I like kind of stopped pitching and really focused on catching though. And then I guess pitched for Macaulay my junior year. And I mean, I was up to, it was weird. I was up to 89 my junior year, which is pretty good for being that young. I wasn't, some stud, but like up to the 89. And then like a week later, I topped like 83. It was weird. I think it had to do with, for one, my arm not being in shape. So like I had a lot of stress on it, in the outing before. And so, but also I think it was like, I had no clue where 89 was going.
Yeah.
And I was also I was skinny. I don't think my body could handle it. I had a lot of arm pain growing up, especially, I remember like catching, it would be hurting pretty bad, and I would come into the dugout and start drinking water, and I'm literally holding the water bottle. My hand is like, I can barely even get it to my mouth because it's just throbbing. So that's never good.
No.
But I will say, once I've started doing, arm care and lifting the right way and doing the things that actually protect the ligaments, because the UCL, by the way, is so weak. If you have just the UCL, I've seen a video, and he puts, I think it's called valgus pressure on it, to where the arm bone, let's call it that. The arm bone is staying still, and you're getting into layback pretty much. It snaps like that. And so pretty much everything that protects your UCL is all of these flexors and pronators and supinators and all of these muscles, the bicep, tricep, shoulder takes off pressure from that. And so it's not a very durable ligament. And so learning how to do arm care and lifting and eating right and sleeping right, all of that has kind of accumulated to not having a lot of arm pain in the past couple of years, especially since that injury, knock on wood.
So now you care and you're really consistent with your preparation and your care for yourself and all that. So fill in the gap from when you started pitching to when you realized there might be a future in pitching. And then, because I remember at some point it was like you were about to leave for JUCO, and it was like our last Bible study all together, and everybody was going around the circle saying something about you, and almost every one of them said something to the effect of your discipline, your commitment to this goal. Like, you had become a guy that like really saw this goal and this dream, and you were going after it with everything. So how did you get to that guy versus when you just started pitching just because you thought you could do it?
Yeah, so I guess I really started seeing that I could pitch in college when I played for that Giant Scout team.
In college?
Yeah, like I believed I could pitch in college after.
I got you.
I was playing for that Giant Scout team.
Yeah.
Then I had a pretty good year my senior year and started getting some looks at some D1 schools, but no offers that I really liked, or like great programs that I thought were going to develop me. So I was like, all right, screw it. Let's just go to JUCO. And that was weird because my dad really wanted me to go to UAB, Alabama, Birmingham. I had an offer from there. But it was like, I don't know, I just had this like, it was just pulling me. Something was pulling me to junior college. I don't know what it was. And I remember telling my old teammate Carter Hewitt, he was at my house one time, and I was like, my dad is like always right. Like, I swear. Every time he's like giving me a life lesson or like life advice, it's been right. And he was like, then why did you decide to go to JUCO? I was like, I don't know, he's wrong about this. And it ended up, working out. But I guess it was weird, man. After my senior year, I had a lot of confidence. I was pretty egotistical, I guess. Didn't care what anybody thought at all. And then went to college, and I was hurt when I first got there in the fall, so I couldn't pitch. I was 10 hours away from home. Everything was terrible. Life falling apart. Really wasn't that bad, anyways.
But it was different. Like you had
Yeah,
to
it was
make a
very
whole new
different. It was a
life.
big change that I was not ready for. I thought I was. I didn't even know how to cook chicken. I had to FaceTime my mom to learn how to cook chicken. And I definitely ate some pink chicken in my JUCO days.
But you made it.
Exactly. It hardened me a little bit. But yeah, I had a lot of confidence in high school, went to college, and just nothing really was going right. Like I got healthy finally. Started pitching, had a couple good outings in my freshman year, spring, and then, crap hit the fan, and it was not good. I lost all confidence. I had no clue where the ball was going. I pretty much was pitching with one pitch, which was my slider. I could kind of throw that for strikes, and so they kept rolling me back out there though, which was huge for me because like if they had just not let me pitch anymore, it would have been even worse, I think.
There's a lesson in that.
What's that?
For them to keep rolling you back out there, even though you didn't necessarily have it at the time.
And I'll come back to that in a second too, with my next school. But
I want to pause right there though, because I want to leave it at the cliffhanger of this phase of adversity, because that's basically like the first adversity you felt in baseball. Is that right?
yeah, probably.
So let's pause right there, because then
Or that I cared about. I feel like I wasn't a great hitter, obviously, but I didn't really that wasn't my dream.
Yeah.
Back when I was catching and hitting, it was like I was playing baseball. Honestly, I hated baseball growing up. I loved football.
I knew you liked football. I didn't know you hated baseball.
I remember going to all-star practices, and I would be like hanging out with my friends, and my dad would come pick me up, and I'm like bawling my eyes out, like, I don't want to go. Why'd you make me do this? He was like, you made a commitment, you're going, which is another life lesson. But yeah, I didn't really care until then. So it was like the end of the world.
Yeah. All right. So let's pick it up after because I want to catch up to your vision where you started having the dream that you were working toward and building the habits that were going to take you to that goal.
Sure.
And then whenever you get to your first sort of dip in the story where the adversity hits, then we'll hit that from both of y'all then.
Yeah. So your thing's baseball, my thing was football. And growing up, my dad was always my coach. So like all the way through Little League. And so it was like that typical, like, dad's coach and son's quarterback kind of thing. And it was really just like you just put good athletes at quarterback and you put them at running back. And then your big guys who were very unathletic, you put on the line just to get in the way, and let the athletes run. But I developed this love for quarterback all the way through Little League and then into middle school. But then it was almost like middle school hit this point. It was the first time that my dad wasn't my coach. And so it was really the first time that I felt like I had a coach who didn't necessarily believe in me. And so I kind of crumbled under that. Like all my confidence was shot. Any sort of assurance, it was like one mess up and you're done. And it's kind of the opposite of like, they didn't keep rolling me out there, even though I didn't necessarily have it. And so I quickly learned that you screw up one time, like you're done. You've lost your shot and it's over. And so it was just kind of season after season of that. I ended up moving schools going into 8th grade to Macaulay, which is where kind of we all came together. And so that was great for me for more reasons than just football. But going into high school, I'm still a quarterback at this point, and that is like what my identity is set in, is like Kris Bowman, the quarterback. It's like that's all that I'd ever known that I wanted to be, and that's all that I knew that I wanted to be going forward. And so there was a point for me my junior year when I was in a quarterback battle with a younger guy, ended up losing that, and that was where kind of my identity got shaken, and that meant a whole lot of things just for my walk with the Lord and like coming to faith and kind of taking football out of the God spot in my life, kind of like removing that idol. And so it was honestly really good for me to lose that. And so start playing linebacker, receiver, end up having a really great high school career my junior and senior year playing those two positions. And loved it. Like it felt like that I was able to play those positions so much more freely than I was able to play quarterback because I didn't have all of this built up years worth of pressure that I had placed on myself or just felt like I was having to carry.
The one, like your wide receiver wasn't the name you gave yourself.
Right.
Quarterback was the name.
Exactly.
So it's like you got out from under the name for a minute.
And it was
best defense of all time, by the way.
Do it
Your senior year.
for sure
Best defense ever.
of all time.
High school history. Actually,
is-
NFL history as well.
Yeah, if anybody's watching this, that is statistically accurate. It is the best Tennessee high school defense statistically in history.
I didn't know that.
That's big time.
Yep. I think we gave up like
It was like under 200 yards per game.
under 200 yards a game,
Maybe
like under 60 rushing yards a game.
And y'all weren't that big. That's the thing. Like there weren't a bunch of monsters on the line.
Whoa.
I mean, there were a couple,
Yes.
you know.
Not straight across. There were a couple,
Yes.
but
What are you talking
It's
about?
not like we had everybody going to Ohio State and
Right.
Okay, yeah, but you guys were. I guess I was very
to
little.
lead Tennessee
I was
in the
little
whole
at the time.
state.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, that's fair.
the Nashville schools should have like blown us out of the
Yeah.
water when it came to that. But anyway, and so have a great high school career, have a lot of fun, like really kind of fall back in love with football. Because I mean, you remember it at one point in my junior year, I was like, I'm done. You know, I don't even care anymore. Like,
Yeah.
If I'm not playing quarterback, I don't even want to play.
Right. It's a grief process, really.
For sure. And so then I commit to Samford as a linebacker receiver. They're like, we're gonna fill you out kind of in both and see what we want you to be. But they were like, don't lose weight, but don't put on weight either. You know, it's like let us decide when you get there.
Interesting.
And so commit there, and then along comes UT Chattanooga, UTC, and there was one of our coaches had known one of their coaches for a long time. And I kind of kicked around the idea of wanting to stay closer to home rather than go away. And it was going to be less expensive because I didn't have a full scholarship going to Samford. It's a private school. It was going to be pretty pricey. And so this coach from UTC comes and they're like, hey, we'll actually take you as a quarterback. Like, we like what little film you have as a quarterback. And we're like, they said, we'll give you a shot at it. And I was like, that, you know, it's almost like this like replaying of everything that I could have been. It's
You
like
relapsed.
now this is, it was honestly, it was a relapse.
Literally.
It was like, all right, so now I get to, you know, prove everybody wrong from high school. And so go to UTC, and before I get there, playing baseball my senior year, ended up punching a wall with my throwing hand and broke my hand, and
You almost won that fight though.
almost
The brick wall almost caved.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After the strikeout.
The brick wall's still undefeated, but I gave it my best shot. And but I didn't tell UTC about this, you know.
No.
And so I get there and I show up with a club of a right hand, throwing hand, and they're like, "What did you do?" It's like, you know, baseball. I heard it. I'm gonna be out in a couple of weeks though, you know. And they were like, "Well, you can't play quarterback with a broken hand." They're like, you'll be a receiver, and then a couple weeks later, they're like, you're a little big for a receiver, and I think honestly it was a little slow, but I didn't want to hear that. And they're like, we're gonna move you to tight end, and so
Wait, weren't you running like a 4.5 or something?
It was quick, yeah. I think I gave off the appearance of slow.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. Yeah.
And so-
Some guys do.
Very elegant motion of running.
Yep.
Long
It was
legs.
like, it's like how you look at a giraffe run and you're like, that thing is moving in slow motion, but the legs are
Yeah.
so long that it's like,
They're
man,
get-
this thing is gliding.
They're
you know?
moving.
And so at that point, that was when I started kicking around the idea of like, okay, maybe this isn't where I'm going to stay. And I really do want to try this quarterback thing out. Because it was really like, if I'm going to spend all of this time pouring into this football career thing, I might as well do it in a position that I want to play and like something that I would enjoy more. Kind of forgetting how much I had previously enjoyed my junior and senior year not having to do that. And so then end up leaving UTC right before the start of the season and saved my eligibility clock. My plan was to take a gap semester and then join somewhere at the mid-year Had a couple of different opportunities that came up in that, but I basically just started training super hard. Like I wasn't doing school, I wasn't working. Like I just took one semester and I was like, I'm just gonna bust my tail, try to get to this goal. And in that period of time, I became the best quarterback that I had ever been. I mean, fixed so many things mechanically that I didn't even know was a problem because I'd never previously worked with any sort of quarterback coach. Didn't even know really that was a thing. Because it was when I was kind of coming through high school was right around the time that you were getting like sport specificity and doing one-on-one training and like tuning things mechanically. Like all of this stuff that's very normal now wasn't back then. At least, you might go to some local high school coach and pay him, $35 an hour because he played at, a Division III school in college, and your dad's like, this guy, he's gonna show you how to be it. And so end up training with this guy up in Nashville. He was a big-time quarterback coach, had trained a bunch of NFL guys, a bunch of college guys. And so do that for a whole semester. He had a connection at Ole Miss, and so I thought that I was going to be a preferred walk-on at Ole Miss. Like that was in the cards for the fall. And around when I was going to make that decision on if I was going to get to go there, their coach at the time, Matt Luke, gets fired. Lane Kiffin comes in, ruins everything, which,
little do we
changed,
know. Yeah. The way it started, the way it ended.
That's right. And so Ole Miss kind of falls apart for me. And at that point I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go somewhere at the mid-year. And that's end of November. That was right after the Egg Bowl that Luke got fired. And so then I'm going into it thinking, okay, well, like kind of scrambling now, where am I going to go? Boston College kind of came knocking, and it was like, okay, like maybe I'm going to BC. Like that would be awesome. They wanted me at the mid-year. Then they kind of delay, and then they got a big-time transfer quarterback from Notre Dame who kind of moved in, and they were like, we'll take the Notre Dame guy over the, gap semester guy. I was like,
I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't get it. And so then my timeline got delayed, so then it was like back to more training now, and I'm going to try to go somewhere in May. And so go back, start training again, picked up a job this time around, started working. This is kind of in the middle of COVID and everything too. And so then University of Florida, shout out to your Gators.
Right. We need it.
Vols.
They come knocking.
We can shut off your mic in a minute.
I keep saying that they come knocking. I was the one knocking. I was pounding on the door,
right.
Like, let me in. And so I had a previous connection there, and so it looked like that I was going to get a preferred walk-on there and get a chance to join the team. And who knows, probably never touch the field, but at least like get to be a part of a good program and achieve that dream, goal, whatever. And it was after signing day at this point, and they told me, they were like, all you got to do, you got to get into the school on your own, and then you do that, then come down here, we'll get your housing figured out, we'll do all the stuff, you can join the team. I was like, great, this should be easy. It's the University of Florida. They take anybody. They don't, apparently. They must have heard about my lifelong Vol fandom, but I did not get accepted into the school. And with that, my dreams of becoming a Gator and being the next Tim Tebow all died. And so...
Big aspirations there.
Yeah, it was like, well, all right, well, now what do I do? There were a couple other places like Charlotte University or University of Charlotte, whoever that was. There was a coach named Will Healy, who was at Austin Peay before that. He was from Chattanooga, was kind of talking with them, potentially going to go there, and then ended up getting a random phone call from this junior college coach that had moved from a pretty good like Mississippi junior college, which in college football, like the Mississippi League is the best league. That's where anybody that you see who's a big name player that's gone to JUCO and come back, they have probably gone to somewhere in the Mississippi League, especially if they're playing the SEC. And so this coach was leaving a school called Pearl River in southern Mississippi, and he was going up to a junior college in Ohio. But he had tons of connections down back in the South because I knew that like that's where I want to be. Is like if I can be in the SEC or if I can be ACC, just somewhere in the South, that would be great. And so he and I start talking. He was like, I need a quarterback. Like, come up here, play one season, and I'll get you back down exactly where you want to be. And I was like, all right, well, let's do that. And so kind of left Charlotte hanging and said, I'm just going to go do this and try to get like the big time school after that. And so ended up going up there. I don't know if this is where you want to pause.
Sure, yeah.
Cause me too, because kind of we're both at the JUCO point now.
Right, and it's kind of a crossroads for both of y'all in the story because I know we're going to talk about where your story ends up after this. And so let's jump back to you. So you're at JUCO, you're by yourself, everything's new, you're injured. Like basically, what was it like being in that place? Like totally different city, away from everybody you knew. And then what did that do for you? Before you take us toward the future, what got instilled in you or maybe like burned out of you?
Yeah, totally different atmosphere, obviously. The heat there is ridiculous, but also people don't understand there's cold winters in Louisiana because the air is wet. And so when you get wet air and you get cold temperatures, it's even colder than it just being a dry cold. Yeah. Anyways, it was also really hot, which you have to learn to deal with sweat and, your hands never being dry. But other than that, I loved, honestly, living on my own. I had a roommate when I first moved in. He ended up getting hurt and leaving. And so there was like a couple months where I just had the apartment to myself. And I honestly really enjoyed that. I would still have teammates come over and we would hang out and whatnot. And then a kid that kind of lived around the area, he lived like an hour away, 50 minutes away. He joined the team after the fall. And he wasn't going to room with anybody. And then I guess he kind of hated the drive, so he ended up living with me. Really liked that guy. Loved the rest of my teammates. I had no problems with anybody really. It was a good group of guys. A lot of good ball players too. But enjoyed living on my own. Enjoyed kind of learning how to cook. I can cook a couple of dishes, to my standards. I don't know about y'all's standards. My standards might be low, but I enjoy the food. And I think it's better when you cook it too. It tastes better.
That's right. More satisfying. You put in the effort.
Very. But
another life lesson in that one.
Sure. But yeah, it was just different. In high school, I went to a private school. Not blue collar. Not any of that. Kind of, I guess you could call it silver spoon in a way. But over there, it was like you're on your own. Nobody's telling you that you have to do this and that. You don't have parents over there that are making sure you're doing the right things. And I definitely slacked in working out. I remember in the springtime, it was a lot. College baseball is a lot with games and travel and working out. And so working out at Bossier Parish was on your own pretty much. I think there was one lift a week where we had to be there as a team. And so the rest of it was on your own, and I definitely didn't take advantage of that like I would now, which I guess that I learned from that. Like, I think velo started to go down, overall just strength obviously was going down. And so after that, I guess, I thought I had a good work ethic, but it was like when I was tested on my own, I didn't. And so definitely learned from that. But then after Bossier Parish, I decided to transfer. I wanted to go back close to home, which at first I was like, I wanted to get away from home. I don't even know why I wanted to get away from home. It was just like, it sounded cool to me.
But you tell me if I'm like not remembering this right, but I think even though you wanted to and then realized you liked it at home, you got more internal benefits, like the growth internally than maybe even growth as a pitcher. Am I remembering that?
Yeah,
remembering that wrong?
I think it's just the only way to learning is failure, in my opinion. That's the way that I learned a lot about not only myself, but about the world and how everything just works. And I think something that a lot of people don't do anymore because we got this freaking phone in our hand all day, is like actually sitting in silence and thinking to yourself, what do I want and what am I going to do to get it? And so I did that a lot. I definitely thought, what do I want to be? What kind of man do I want to be? This is where the Lord comes in a lot. What kind of Christian do I want to be? And I was by no means living a Christian lifestyle, but it was like that seed had been planted. And obviously reading the Bible with you and just going over that was huge, because I wouldn't have done it on my own. I wouldn't go to church on my own. I remember you text me and you were like, so are you going to church? And then you sent me a link to like a church down there. And I was like, this guy, like, get out of my hair. I'm not going. And now I like going to church by myself more than I like going with anybody else. But just overall failure and then time to yourself. I think people don't take time to themselves anymore and figure out what they want. Because if you're always occupied with something, you're never going to realize what you really want to do and what you're going to do to achieve that. And so I came, I guess, like addicted to this thought of being good at baseball. And also, I don't know, I guess it's just how I am, but I don't want to work a job, to be honest. Like, I just don't want to. I'd rather play baseball the rest of my life. And, Lord willing, that might happen, but it was just like I would rather work as hard as I can at baseball than school. And it's not that I pushed school off by any means, because I was still taking engineering classes and, calculus 1 and 2 and physics and all of that, which I enjoyed because I enjoy math. But I was like, I'm just going to put all my effort into baseball because baseball is a lot cooler than sitting at a desk. So transferred after a lot of failure throughout the season, a lot of, walks. I think I had 45 innings and 48 walks.
Wow.
Which is really bad. I did manage to have, I think, around like 60 strikeouts, which is pretty good. Over 1 strikeout per inning, but 48 walks is not good.
Because didn't you say you were just throwing the crap out of the slider, and if it went where you wanted it to go, it was effective, but you didn't know if it was going to go
Yeah,
there?
that was probably my best command pitch. I had confidence with it because it would get swing and miss, and, sometimes I would throw it for a strike. But, like, my fastball had no confidence. I didn't even have a changeup at all. That was not even a thought. And it was like, I remember it was like a disease, man. It was like every time I would throw a pitch, it didn't matter how confident I was in the pitch beforehand, but as soon as I was going to release the ball, like literally in the middle of my delivery, it was like this split second of doubt right before I released the ball. And every time I pitched, it happened. And so I would just spray it. But all that to say, left Bossier Parish, came back home, about 30 minutes away to Cleveland State. And, I trained during the off season. I didn't go and play summer ball. Decided to train and just work out, which I think was good for me because I kind of got my feet back under me with pitching and got a little bit of confidence back and just got out of competition. I think I just needed to get out of competition because I just wasn't in the right mind space to compete.
What was your mind space then? Were you like doubting or tired of it, or?
I wouldn't even say tired of it. It was like a good hurt. Like it was, and I say that as in like I sucked at baseball, but it was like I couldn't stop trying to get better. And maybe I was trying too hard, That's definitely a thing that happens, but I don't know. I just eventually it was just like, all right, I need to figure out how to pitch again. So I went and saw some guys and that I had worked with before, got my feet under me a little bit, went to Cleveland and had like 2 good outings in the fall. And then like the rest of the fall, it was like I was back in that hole of not having confidence. I was moving better. I was stronger, and my pitches were better, a lot better, but I was just having struggle. I was having issues with commanding the ball again. And so at that time, it was like, wow, this is really about to be over. Like, because, I mean, you go your sophomore year, you walk a bunch of people. It doesn't really matter how hard you throw unless you're throwing 100. Then it doesn't matter. But that's an argument for another time. But it was like, yeah, this is going to be over in a couple months. After the season, I'm going to be done, and I'll just be an engineer, I guess. Finish out my college days being a student. So I was really like preparing myself for, being done with baseball.
Yeah, you're starting that grief process.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably it.
Yeah. We went home for the winter, and I don't think I worked any harder than I had in the past. That was what was very frustrating for me, as I was working really hard at all of it, and it just wasn't working. And so went home for the winter, made a couple of changes, saw a couple of coaches that helped me. And, I made one kind of mechanical change, which the issue was not mechanical. It was all mental. And so I made a mechanical change, and that actually took my brain off of thinking of failure into thinking of just this one little mechanical change. And so it was like, now instead of right before I threw the ball, I would think of doubt or think of like whatever it was that my brain was thinking. It was like, I'm thinking of this kind of mental cue, took my mind off of, all mental things outside of that, and I could throw strikes. I remember I came out my first outing, and I threw a complete game in 71 pitches, and everybody was like, what? Because I think I had like maybe 1 or 2 walks in 7 innings. And in the fall, I was walking the house. But that was crazy. And then I actually came out the next like 3 outings after that, threw 3 more complete games. And it was like that confidence boost was like a drug. I mean, it was like, you can't even explain it. It was like I was invincible at that point. And then I guess that's kind of a good place to stop, because I actually had confidence now. But I do remember, I want to say, like the importance of a coach believing in you is huge. And so I remember during the fall, I'd had a bad outing, and I was sitting there probably moping, looking like I was defeated, because I was pretty good at doing that. But sitting there, and my coach at the time, Coach B, came up, and he was like, pretty much saying, like, we need you, and like, I don't know what it's gonna take, but like, you have to figure it out, and we're just gonna keep, like, you're gonna pitch. And so that was like a confidence boost in itself, is like, you have time to figure this out. It wasn't like, you mess up one more time, it's over. It was like, you're gonna be a guy here, whether you like it or not. And like, you're going to figure it out, and we're just going to keep rolling you back out there. And that helped a lot.
The freedom to fail, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because before it was like, nobody was even really putting it on me that there was no freedom to fail. I put it on myself because I wanted to be so good. And so I guess once he was like, all right, we're not, like you said, we're not going to have, or we're going to give you that freedom to fail. Then it was like a whole new world, Yeah. I actually, I guess, wasn't afraid of failure anymore at that point. And I'm sure there was a lot of smaller feelings within that, feelings of like, maybe I had an outing in the spring where I walked a couple more guys than usual, but it was still like, well, look at what I did a couple weeks ago. Like, I can do it, and I don't have this freedom. I have freedom of failure, so I just kept rolling it back out there, and eventually it just worked itself out. Had a really good start to the season, kind of an okay middle of the season, and then in our playoff game against Walter State, that was huge too. I was kind of struggling a little bit before that, but just kind of it was like an aggression, I guess. I guess that whole year I kind of pitched with an aggression instead of like a passive mindset. It was like more of like I'm better than you. And like, how dare you even be on this field with me? Like, I am the best.
Heck yeah.
Which, obviously I wasn't the best, but it was like that mindset,
Yeah.
It's huge.
Well, because a lot of it did have to do with that coach telling you, like, we're going to keep rolling you out there. So whatever happens, we're going to keep doing it.
And I guess that's like the opposite of what you had. You kind of were like, if you fail, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was putting that on myself before, and then once he said that, it was like, wow, having a coach believe in you is an incredible thing.
Yeah. And by the way, feel free to don't let me just be the one asking questions, because y'all both ask good questions too. So whatever y'all think of as each of y'all are telling the stories, jump in. But then, yeah, go into your story from there.
So I think kind of from here, this is where like it's a good time to introduce the faith component of this, because that's where this is, you asked the question to him earlier, what did this season bring out in you or burn off of you?
Mm-hmm.
And so going into this JUCO thing, I have a loose relationship with the Lord. As much as I really know to have the framework of how to walk with God, like I was somewhat doing it. I would spend time in prayer. I wouldn't spend a ton of time in the Word, but I was sharing consistently about who Jesus was, what he had done, with people that I was close to. And so in this kind of gap year period going into JUCO, I kind of start praying this prayer and kind of having this mindset of like, God, if you'll give me the thing that I want, like this ability to play football at a high level and play quarterback at a high level, then I'll be the next Tim Tebow for you. It's like I'll put the verses on my eye black. I'll share, the gospel from the podium in the, SEC media day or whatever. And it's like I'll do all the stuff for you. So like I'm gonna give all the glory back to you, if just you'll give me this thing. And so that kind of leads into my time at JUCO, which was really like in some ways a testing ground for me. And so I get there, it's in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. I'm with a demographic of people. With that being in the north, it's just completely different than anything that I had known growing up. And so it was, instead of just a lot of like kind of southern, like smaller town kind of people, it was northern big city people. And JUCO is a different ball game to a lot of extent too, because it's not just guys that are coming in there because they didn't get their shot in high school or they didn't get the thing that they were wanting at their first college. Like that happens sometimes. But for other guys, it's like there were grade issues that happened or they got in trouble for something. And so it can be like kind of a rough and tough place to be in. And so that was good for me because it kind of ruffled my feathers up a little bit, and it loosened up my tie, the private school tie.
For sure.
And so I'm up there. The fall is going good. We had this is in the middle of 2020, and so COVID's going on at this point. Our fall season has gotten pushed to spring of 21, and so fall ended up being spring practice, but in the fall for the spring season. That goes great. I win the starting job. I really had the starting job from the moment I went up there, because I wouldn't have gone if I didn't know that I already had it. And so have really good relationships with the guys, have good relationships with the coaches. And then we end up stopping fall practice. And then I came home the 1st of November and finished up the rest of my classes online, because all of us were already in online classes. We were basically just staying in the dorms to be there for football stuff. And so came home November 1 and just was busting my tail, working really hard, like hitting the weight room, throwing a lot, finishing up classes, but getting to just spend time with family and hang out with friends. And the new year comes around. I'm supposed to go back somewhere around like the second week of January or something. And so my dad, who was on the older end and kind of had some of those, what do you call it, like pre-existing conditions for COVID. He gets COVID, and then he ends up getting hospitalized for 3 weeks. And so this is probably first week-ish of January, somewhere between like the 7th and I guess it was the 10th, because he came back on the 29th, which is his birthday, which is wild, by the way. But so he goes into the hospital, and I don't know if y'all remember at the time, but like COVID and hospitals and all that, like it was a weird time.
Nightmare.
Yeah, like we have not seen that. And so we ended up, like, once you drop somebody off at the hospital, like, you didn't see them. And so people were dropping family members off and wouldn't see them again until they were in a casket, or until they walked out on their own. And so we dropped my dad off thinking this is the last time that we'll ever see him again. Jeez. And Dad has to die this slow death of COVID alone in a cold hospital room with no family or people around, like feeling almost like this alienated.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was also a lot of like fear put around COVID, like from the media, just exaggerated death rates and all that.
For sure.
I think they were exaggerated. I don't know about you guys, but it was like every person who got COVID was like, it's over, especially if they're over 50 or whatever the age was.
Right. And so we take him to the hospital, we drop him off. It was me, my mom, my two brothers, we all dropped him off, and then we were just basically in the parking lot bawling our eyes out, like, as we knew that our dad was going in the hospital, probably not to come back out. And so that was almost like this sobering kind of grounding moment, where I'm looking forward to going back and playing junior college football in Ohio, and playing quarterback and do it. It's like that. Those were the main concerns of my life. And then this happens, and it's like, whoa, like, all right, well, what's actually important here? And so then I kind of made the decision that I was going to stay and kind of wait this out as long as that took, and I didn't really know what that was going to mean. And so talked to, coaches up in Ohio. They were obviously great about it and cool with it. They were like, come up here whenever you need to.
So this was time for you to go back, and you weren't going back?
So at this point, I should have gone back like around the 16th or something of January, and Dad was still in the hospital, and so I was like, I'm not leaving my mom and my brother by themselves in the like in the house, and potentially then like coming back and Dad being dead, like that would have been horrible. And so stick around. Dad ends up getting let out on January 29th, which was his birthday. The next day we had like a big birthday party for him. I say big, it was like just our immediate family, but like we made a big deal about it, obviously. It was almost like a first birthday party, you know what I mean? It's like you are alive and you're here,
Didn't think I'd see you again.
Right, yeah. And so we have that. That was, I think the 29th was a Friday. He comes home. The 30th we do the birthday party, and I left on Sunday to go back to play football.
Season had started?
It had not started. So our first game was the first week of April, like April 3rd, I think.
Okay.
And so go back up there, but then I am internally a complete wreck, just from all that's been going on.
You could finally like process what you had been going through, because I'm sure you just went into hunker down mode just to get through it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so get up there, all of my relationships with coaches and players and everything like just become very strained, and obviously mostly because of me, like, because I'm getting up there and I'm the one who's showing up late, who's short with everybody, who's like kind of lashing out for no reason on very small things or something, and just kind of being a jerk. On the one hand, rightfully so, you know what I mean? It's like that's a hard thing to go through, and then nobody really like there understood what was going on, and because I really didn't tell them.
You were just the guy that showed up late to spring.
Exactly, yeah. And so they knew like my dad was sick, but they didn't know the extent of what that was. And so go through spring ball, and then there's a couple of moments where like in practice, got in a fight with this one guy.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, honestly, it was. He was saying, calling into question my ability to do the thing that I've been trying to do for so long, and the way that I was taking that was like getting identity statements hurled at me, or really rocking my foundation of who I thought that I was or could be. And the only response that I knew to have to that was, I'm going to hit you. And so there was, we were doing this like offense versus defense, like team pass drill. And so it was all like, it was supposed to be all pass. And so we had the offensive and defensive lineman up there, which didn't entirely make sense. Because our offensive line was horrible, and so we didn't really have time to pass the ball. So if we want to have a pass session, let's just take them out of it for a minute. But the very first play of this, I drop back to throw the ball. It's like as soon as I get to the third step in my drop, there's defenders in my face. And so I kind of scramble and then just end up tucking the ball and like just kind of jogging forward, like, you know, plays over kind of thing. And so then this safety comes up and like just starts jabbing at me, telling me to throw the ball, telling me I'm not throwing the ball because I can't throw the ball, you know, whatever. And so as he says that, I had started to turn and walk away. And when he said that, you can't throw the ball, or you're not throwing the ball because you can't throw the ball, I turned back around and I threw the ball, maybe the hardest that I've ever thrown, right at his helmet. And I hit him in the helmet, and his helmet spun around.
Wow. Did he not have a chin strap on?
No, he had it like loose or unbuckled or something. And so his helmet like spins around. And so he like, then I just turn around and start walking away again, thinking that's going to be it. That was my stupidity, thinking that he wasn't going to do something back to that. First he had to straighten his helmet, and then he went on the attack. But then this started an all-out team brawl. Wow. Between the offense and the defense, but like some of the guys were related to each other that were on offense and defense, and so then they were fighting me, but then there were some of my guys that were like fighting, you know, and it was chaos. And then I remember getting pulled aside by our head coach, and he like pulls me aside, and he was kind of a hothead, but for some reason he wasn't hot in this moment. He like pulls me aside and he's like, "Why would you do that?" And I just remember like bawling my eyes out, crying when he said that.
And like right there
In front of him. And I don't think he really even knew what to do.
Like, what did I ask
Yeah. And I, because I think that I was wondering myself, why would I do that? Like, that's not me. What is going on, you know? And so kind of from that point forward, they suspended me for a week, which was a whole, thing. And so end up getting suspended like 2 weeks before the season starts. So then I have to come back, and they basically made me re-earn my spot as the starter in the last 2 weeks before the season started. And so re-earn that spot, go out the first game. And at this point now, relationships with everybody are just strained, because I wasn't able to really come back and reconcile anything because I had to be gone for a week. And it was just a very weird situation. Come out in that game, play pretty terribly, like had 3 interceptions. I mean, the first one was like just a little out route to one of our receivers on the sideline, and the ball goes like through his hands. It hits him in the helmet, which is becoming a theme now, and bounces straight up in the air, and the safety just comes and it like falls in his hands, and he just takes it the other way for pick 6. And then the other 2, like one of them for sure was all my fault. The other one was another tip ball, like, and it was just one of those things where it's like, man, I can't catch a break here. Yep. And then I ran the ball like 23 times that game, and woke up the next morning feeling like I had been hit by a literal train. And so spend the whole next week rehabbing what was essentially a horrible car crash, and like just to try to get ready to do it again, the next week. And so get ready, go to this next game, and the fifth play of this second game, I'm running the ball, get my legs kind of taken out from under me, put my hand down to brace myself, my right hand, right arm, and land on it and kind of twist as I'm landing, end up tearing my tricep, dislocating my elbow in one spot but breaking it in another, tearing another little muscle in the elbow, like just completely tore myself to shreds. Got up, didn't realize what had happened. I tried to hand the ball to the referee with my right arm, and I couldn't bend it, like I was trying to bend it to hand it to the referee.
Your triceps
and I,
didn't work.
Yeah, it wasn't working, and I was like, okay, something's wrong. So came off the field and ended up having to go to the hospital. And I remember as soon as I realized that I wasn't going to be able to play anymore, it was like the biggest weight off my shoulders, sigh of relief, that I can go home and I can stop chasing this pursuit that I feel like I've been chasing since maybe.
Man, this quarterback thing's like the devil.
Right.
Yeah.
And so go back home, start rehabbing, and then you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. And at this point now, it's like, okay, I'm done playing football. That lasts for about 2 weeks. And then it's like, no, I'm not done playing football. This is God telling me that I just wasn't supposed to play quarterback. And so now I'm supposed to be a linebacker or a tight end. And so end up calling this guy that had recruited me at UTC, who is now at Tennessee. And I was like, hey, here's what happened. Got hurt. I just want to come back. I just want to be a linebacker or a tight end. It's like, can I come up there? Can I walk on? He's like, yeah, sure. Come on, just again, like Florida, get into school and you can join us. So go in, get into the school, have to wait an additional semester, have to wait the fall semester season, and then planning to come in at the next spring ball of what is now 2022. As I'm getting rehabbed and prepared for that, end up herniated disc in my lower back. And so just, again, another injury that is pulling me away from playing. And so then at that point, I'm like, all right, now football's done. Football's over. And then I'm like, well, does that mean all sports are over, or can I maybe try something else? And so then I picked up baseball and had gotten in touch with this guy that owned a baseball facility in Knoxville. We just run into each other and started talking at a Publix or something, and he was asking about what do you do, and I kind of gave him the whole backstory of the football thing, and I was like, so I'm done playing now, and he's like, well, if you ever want to just come work out, come to our facility and just you can lift over there, you don't have to pay anything, just come hang out. I was like, that'd be great. I was broke college student.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? And I started going over to this place and working out. Well, then their pitching coach comes up to me one day in the weight room, and he's like, hey, what do you do? And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, do you play a sport or something? Why are you in here? And I kind of gave him the backstory of football and everything. And he was like, do you ever play baseball? And I was like, I did in high school. And he was like, but you were a quarterback? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, can you throw a baseball? And I was like, I don't know. I haven't been able to throw anything, since I had that injury. And he was like, how fast do you throw in high school? And I was like, I hit low 90, somewhere in there. And he was like, you think you could do it again? And I was like, again, I don't know if I could even throw. And he was like, well, what would you say if I said, let's try to get you rehabbed and let's just see what happens? And I was like, sure, like I don't have anything else going on. And so again, I'm like, oh, this has to be from God. Like that
Divine
this man
intervention.
Dropped right in your lap.
oh, I just had it wrong the whole. I'm supposed to play baseball, not football. And so then try to come back. It goes like somewhat well, but then my arm is just completely shot. I have no stamina. I can't play. And so then I'm done with that. And at that point, I moved back home to Chattanooga. I'm like, all right, now I'm officially done playing. The UTC coaches had asked me if I wanted to come back and play for them. And that was the first time that I said, like, no.
What position was this?
They wanted me back as a tight end. And that was the first time that I said no to, like, an opportunity like that. I was like, I'm done with it. Like,
Why'd you say no?
I think at the time I was ready to grow up and grow out of it. And I think, kind of looking back now to answer that question, what God instilled in you and what burned off of you, when I chose to go to junior college, the only thought in my mind was, how can I get where I want to be to do what I want to do? Mm. And so it was very self-serving. Not to mention the whole conversation that I felt like I was having with God around, if you get me to this point, well, then I'll do all of these things. Well, we've talked before about the verse in the Bible that's, if you're faithful with little, then I'll entrust you much. Looking back in my time at JUCO and kind of all of my other areas, I didn't share the gospel once. I didn't start a Bible study with my team, or even like with a couple of guys on the team. I wasn't spending time in God's word, like in my room. Like there was none of these things that would have been the markers. And so had I been placed on some sort of platform at a big SEC school or a big whatever, and I would have never done those things anyways, And so at the end of the day, I was looking out for me and what I wanted to do, and was trying to package it up nicely in this box, to God of like, I'll give you all the glory, if you'll just give me all the glory, you know what I mean? And so
I promise I'll give it back, but I just want it for a little bit.
Exactly. And so I think that was what began to burn off of me, was this like self-serving, like almost this need that I felt like I had to get met because of something that had previously happened, where I felt like, I didn't have what it takes, or I felt like I was a failure or something like that, because I placed so much weight and so much of myself and my purpose and all of those things into this thing called football, and specifically quarterback. And so it was almost like I got ripped down to the foundation. It was like taking an old, like fixer-upper house, like tearing it down to the studs, and being like, all right, like let's rebuild this thing into something that's going to be strong, and is going to be able to house something much better. And so that was really when my relationship with the Lord started to take off and kind of go in a completely new direction than what it had previously. And it was because I had been stripped of everything that I thought that I could bring to the table. And so that was, I guess that's probably a good place to stop for now and let you pick up.
I think we've talked about this, but did you think before all of that kind of happened, where you realized, you're done with football, and then you got right with the Lord, before that, did you think you were saved? Or did you really believe it kind of like after that is when you're like, all right? Because I think I remember us talking about a while ago, there was a point where you're like, I'm saved. And then something happened, like maybe you started like really giving everything to God, and then you were like, oh, I really wasn't saved. Now I am.
Yeah. I think I partly don't know the answer to that. There is a distinct moment in my life when I was 8 years old. I was driving home from football practice with my dad, and I was like, Dad, like, I want to have a relationship with Jesus. And that was the moment where, you know, I prayed the sinner's prayer, and before it, you know, wasn't cool anymore, asked Jesus into my heart. And from that moment forward, the framework that I looked at my life through was very different. And I think I had a distant relationship with God. I felt like I knew him then, but it felt like the water was muddy, maybe is the way that I would put it. And so some of the decisions that I would make throughout middle school and high school, and just the way that I would look at life, the things I would think about even, I had a heart and a mind that was like somewhat set on God. Mm-hmm. There were other things that were kind of sharing the pedestal, though, that had to get removed. And so maybe the best way that I would describe it is like a turning up of the volume in the relationship, where it's almost like you go from like, you know, a friend that you see kind of every now and then, every once in a while, you might see at school, or like a coworker that like you have, you know, passing conversations with in the break room or something, into somebody where it's like, oh no, we're gonna have dinner together, or we're gonna grab coffee in the morning, you know, like, and actually have that relationship with. And so it's not that I didn't have a relationship with God before. I think that it just got way turned up, kind of at this point. And that kind of came about really just through the removal of all of these things. Like there was a relationship with a girl that was also in there too, that had to get removed. And so it was just all of these things that had once shared the pedestal got taken down, to where I realized, like, man, like, I've just been distracting myself chasing after these other things. The thing that I really want here is like a genuine, deep relationship with the Lord. And it was crazy that, like, when those things started to go away, a sense of identity, a sense of purpose, a sense of peace, all of those things just elevated or increased.
The seeds were in there, but once those things got removed, those seeds could grow up through the soil.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's a great way of putting it. Like, it's that kind of the parable of the sower, like the different types of seed. I can't remember which one it is, the shallow or the rocky soil, or the thorny soil maybe, or whatever, where it's like it grows up, but it's getting choked out by all of the thorns and the things around it. Yep. It was like, that really was my heart. So it's like there was something sprouting. Mm-hmm. It was just getting choked out by all the cares of the world, and all, you know, it was football, it was girls, it was whatever.
Part of it, I think I remember, it was like you were following most of God's principles, without really following Him.
Yeah,
I think there's a difference in that,
like a rule book.
Yeah, I think it was almost like just that Bible Belt kind of cultural Christianity thing, where it's like, I know the right thing to do, and I know what the culturally acceptable thing to do is, and, you know, everybody looks at me and they're like, oh, that's a good young man right there, you know, and that's a godly young man, you know, just because I might have displayed some sort of patience or genuine kindness towards somebody, you know what I mean?
Right.
Some Southern hospitality, and somebody's like, man, that he knows the Lord. But that was just the culturally acceptable thing to do, which maybe even that was one of the things that had to get burned off when I went up to Ohio, because it was like, you're actually not in a place where somebody's going to recognize that as like you being the poster child of you know, the South or something, a good old Southern boy or whatever. It's like, get up there, it's like nobody really cares about your Bible Belt isms, you know? But yeah, that's a good question.
So, in your point of the timeline, at that point in the timeline, basically your dream, that original dream, has died, and then
Sure.
all the benefits that come with that.
Sure.
And we think that when a dream dies, it's just like before it's happened, the idea of it dying, it's like the end of the world. Like if that dies, I'm nothing, I'm nobody.
Right.
But then you saw the benefits from it. But now y'all's stories start to diverge because your dream is still going. And so take us through, because where did we leave off with you? Was that with after you leaving after Cleveland State?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I kind of had a good year at Cleveland State.
Yeah. So that was after your sophomore year of college.
Yes.
So then what?
And I think so like my freshman year, a lot of failure that led to learning. And I remember we actually had it was us three, but I remember telling you guys like, yeah, this past year I just didn't have a lot of success. You know, I learned a lot, but I didn't have success. And then you asked like, then what is success? Is that not success? You know, learning. And so through failure and learning, in my eyes now, it was a successful year. I needed that. And then my sophomore year, I guess this is where I really had this like burning passion to know Jesus. And it was like throughout my day, it was always, I was in constant prayer. That's kind of how I remember it, like especially on drives, and if we were taking BP, I'd be out in the outfield, like, you know, maybe I was shagging balls and just like talking to God. And it was great. And, you know, I try to still carry that with me. You know, I've started to listen to a lot more worship music, which has been phenomenal. And we've been talking about this lately, like my Bible life right now is like, it feels more like I have to than I want to right now. And it's like my kind of nightly routine of right before I go to bed, I'll, you know, read the Bible. It just wasn't cutting it. So I started taking notes. I've been taking notes on Romans. But even towards the end of Romans, it just kind of felt like, you know, I would rather be doing something else, you know. And whereas before, like my sophomore year, like I'm like really into the Bible. Like I'm reading all of the Gospels. I'm learning about Jesus. Also, side note, right before I started reading Romans, I was reading the Old Testament, and I just wasn't, you know, everything I was reading, I was reading it to where I understood what was happening. You know, I was getting something from. I wasn't getting anything from it. I was interpreting it, but it was like I wasn't getting anything from it. So I needed, you know, Jesus. You said if you are lacking Jesus, go get you some Jesus. So I went back into the New Testament. But yeah, it just felt like I wasn't really getting anything from the Bible. So I started these past couple of nights listening to just worship music before I go to bed and praying. And I guess another thing I'd like to talk about is getting baptized. Like that was, I think, my first big step of obedience toward Christ. Whereas before, it was like I was in a season of I need to prepare myself, or God is preparing me, and you know, we're getting to know each other. He already knows me, but I was getting to know him, you know, how he works, what he, you know, likes, doesn't like, you know, all of that. And then kind of when I went to Tennessee, I started going to church a lot. There was literally every Sunday somebody was getting baptized. And that was in both the morning service and the college night service that they do at Sevier Heights in Knoxville. And I just saw all these people getting baptized, and every time somebody get baptized, I was like, that should be me. I was like, it's time, that should be me. But I never did it. It literally took me all year. I'd been going to that church all year. I think since like the first Sunday I was there in the summer, all the way till the last week they did that college service, because school was getting out. That's when I got baptized. And so something that kind of helped that was this Bible study I got into with that church. One of my good friends was in it with me. And I remember talking to you about it, and I was like, it's kind of like, I don't really feel like I'm growing from it because it's kind of like a base level thing, but it's good for me because it's like reinforcing the basic, relationship with Christ things. And so stayed in it. And then, once you kind of get past that barrier of like, you don't know everybody in the group, because it was like a fully random group. Once we got past that and we were actually all, comfortable around each other and friends, it really started to flourish. And that was really cool. We were standing outside in the parking lot after a Bible study one night, and it was 3 of us that were wanting to get baptized, and my good friend Rashad, he was kind of a co-leader of the group, and he was like, there's baptisms this Sunday. And then I don't remember who it was, but one of the guys was like, if you do it, I'll do it. And I was like, if you do it, I'll do it. And so all 3 of us that night called, I guess maybe the head guy of baptisms or whatever in the church, and got us set up for Sunday. I was literally like, if I can't do it this Sunday, I'm not doing it. So, like, make it happen. And so ended up working out. And that was like, it was amazing because that just proclamation of faith, because that's what I was scared of the whole time, is like getting in front of a whole bunch of people and then getting baptized and like everybody's looking at me and I'm wet and like I just didn't want to do it. Like it, didn't sound appealing to me. I was just, I guess, scared of, I think it was like kind of the devil trying to work in me. Like, hey, everybody's going to be judging you while you're up there, and everybody's going to be like, oh, I know that guy. He definitely isn't, he's not Christian. Like, he's not living that way. Why is he getting baptized? Those were all these things that were circling through my mind, like all these doubts. And then I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to do it. And so, great night. My sister was there a couple months later, I guess a couple months ago, or no, a couple weeks ago, she got baptized.
Let's go.
And that was like, amazing to see that, kind of full circle moment. But yeah, I think I'm starting to see steps of obedience that I need to be taking. I actually learned about what tithing was while I was in Tampa. I didn't even know what that was. I knew about like donating to the church, but I didn't know the whole, how it worked. And so I've been wanting to get into that. Like how you said, like before I went to Tennessee, I was like, God, let me go to Tennessee and I'll, become the GOAT. Mm-hmm. And then while I'm getting interviewed and all these interviews, I'll be telling everybody like, oh, it's all God.
Right. Yeah.
And
glory to God.
Yeah.
So
instead of doing it where I was, in Cleveland. Then I went to Tennessee and I did get interviews and I didn't talk about God. And so that was a big, like, man, you didn't keep your word there. And that was a hit. That was like a hit on my heart. And I was like, well, I was given the opportunity. God gave me the opportunity. He literally did what I asked him to do, and I didn't pull through. And so now it's like tell people about God where you're at instead of asking God, well, you make me a big leaguer. Guess what? Everybody is going to know about God. No, I need to do it now while, I don't even want to say I have little. I have a lot, but it's like where I'm at, I'm going to do what I need to be doing. Yeah. Take those steps of faith. And then, whatever he gives me, maybe I could get hit by a car on the way out of here and never play baseball again. But it's like, I definitely think baseball played into my faith, from learning lessons, just learning how to fail, learning how to work hard, because I feel like I've taken the same work ethic that I've taken into working out. Like you get to the gym and you're like, man, I don't want to do this at all. Mm-hmm. Super tired, legs hurt, arm hurts, don't want to do this at all. And you do it anyway. I've taken that and put it into, my relationship with God and reading the Bible every night and praying every night, which I guess I'm at a bit of a crossroads there, because it's like, if I'm doing it even when I don't want to, like I need to want to. I'm curious, what do you guys have on that? Because it's like, I'm reading the Bible every night like it's the last rep of a set that I really don't want to do.
That's a good way to say it.
So
good
how
metaphor.
do you, like, what is that bad? Like, I don't know,
I wouldn't say so. What do you think?
I would say we never feel our way into a new action. We always act our way into a new feeling. And so like in my relationship with my wife, like there's times when that relationship isn't necessarily like the easiest. It's, I come home after a long day of work and talking to people and spending energy and all that, and I get home and it's like, man, I want to sit on the couch. I want to watch The Office. I want to turn off my brain.
Low key by yourself.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. If you were in this room or if
would
you
be
weren't
okay.
in this room, would not make a difference to
Yeah.
me, But I get there and she wants to talk. She wants to spend time with me, and I've never once at the end of a night where I come home and I really just want to flip on the TV and chill out, but I chose not to do that. I've never at the end of that night, after spending the next hour and a half like hanging out with my wife or talking to my wife, been like, man, I wish I didn't talk to her for that, and the more that I have done that when I didn't feel like doing it has brought about more of a desire to just spend time with her in general. And so I feel like that's how it is sometimes like one of maybe the myths of how our relationship with God is supposed to work is that, it should just feel easy all the time, or else I don't actually have it. And to which I would say, what relationship do you have that's like that outside of a relationship with God anyway?
Yeah, love is a action, not a feeling.
For sure, yeah. And so even when you don't feel like it, maybe even especially when you don't feel like it, that's when the relationship grows the most.
Yeah, I guess you think back, like, every time that you didn't want to go, or at least for me, it was like every time I would go to something that I really didn't want to go to, especially like going to church. It's like after you get done at church, you're like, I'm glad I went to church.
Yeah.
And you're like, that split second of like, the decision happens in a split second, like, oh, I'm going to sleep in or I'm going to go to church.
Yeah.
Like, the more that you make that decision, for one, it's your action of love rather than your feeling. And two, it's, like you said, hardwiring that kind of, doing what you don't want to do. And then you end up like, I'm glad I went there. Glad I went to church. Glad I talked to whoever.
Yeah.
All right, so take us the quick version through. You have enough success at Tennessee to catch the attention of pro ball. Like, take us through that whole timeline, just to like a zoom through, and then I have a couple questions to like wrap up both of y'all stories.
Yeah. So had an all right season at Tennessee. I think I just had enough exposure from being from there, and I had a couple of scouts looking at me in junior college. Ended up having enough to where I could sign with the Yankees. Honestly, I thought I was going back to college because on draft night, you remember it was like a huge ordeal. Like, I called you, I don't know what to do. Like, if these teams offer me what I asked for, but just after the draft, like, am I going to take it? Or am I going to go back to college? And I had no clue. Like, I was actually freaking out. And like, that whole day was so stressful. Like, I remember my mom was like, there was like this list of draft eligible players that haven't been picked, and I wasn't on the list, even though a bunch of people weren't on the list. It was just like, I don't even know what list it was, but my mom didn't see me there. She was like, are you sure you did everything you need to do? Like, did you not put something in and now you can't get drafted? And like, that was like stressing me out. And then, I was just, the whole day was super stressful. And I was praying to God, pretty much do it for me. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, just put the thought into my head of what I should do. And then anyways, I ended up getting a call in like the 19th round from the Yankees, and they're like, hey, we already have our draft picks in, but we would like to sign you. Ended up doing that. Went down to Tampa for about 2.5 months, which was great. Loved Tampa. Ended up finding a really good church there in Radiant. You went to one of the services, and it was
awesome.
Yeah, it was good. something about that was the first like 3 weeks I went, maybe first 2 weeks, the pastor was on vacation because like they were doing the whole the movies thing where they
At
like
the movies.
at the movies. Oh my god. They were doing at the movies, and so I went in there not knowing that it was like I didn't even know this was like a nationwide thing that churches do. And also I didn't know that the guy was just out of town because he was on a screen and it's like pre-recorded. And I was like, maybe this place isn't very good. And anyway, I kept going back. And I was inviting teammates, and like the first time I went, like 5 of them went with me. And the next time I went, 0. And I was like, wow, I don't know if I did something or if the church just wasn't for them. But
They just didn't like the Lion King.
yeah,
You know?
yes. No, I think it was Mary Poppins.
Oh, gosh, no
No,
wonder
it
they
was
go back.
Saving Mr. Banks.
I don't even know what that is.
I didn't
It was
see that one.
it was
No wonder
about,
they didn't go back again. Yeah.
That's right.
I think it was the author who wrote Mary Poppins. I hope I didn't get that wrong. It's gonna be really awkward if I did, but I just kept going. And then he came back, and it was like he actually delivered a really good sermon and made it all about Jesus. And this is a pretty big church, and like what you said, tell him what you remember.
Yeah, well, that week that I visited with you was his first week back, and they gave this big video tribute to him. And I was watching him because he was on the stage as the video was playing. And I thought, all right, what is this? Because a lot of churches will kind of glorify their pastor as sometimes just underneath Jesus. And so he gets up with the mic, and he immediately turns the glory to Jesus, like starts singing a song, a worship song, and just does not take any of the credit or glory or anything, because the video was about basically his ministry career. So it was a great passing of a test for him, because he basically the glory was handed to him, and I could almost like picture God saying, all right, what are you going to do with this glory? And he turned it right back, which was not like I was in at that moment.
Yeah, so obviously had some really good sermons. Got into a little small group because I was there one day and I was sitting next to these 3 girls, and we started talking, and they were like, "Hey, we need more guys for our small group." Like it's literally
Why you keep going to that church?
Yeah, that's right.
That's
You're
right.
like, yep.
That's right. But it was like it's a co-ed small group, and they had like 1, maybe 2 guys in there, and so they were trying to get more guys. And so I invited one of my other teammates, who had come to a couple services, but it was kind of like, I remember we were walking in a small group, and he was like, "This is unlike anything I've ever done. Like, I just want you to know that." And I was like, "I know." Like it's anyways. We went, it was good. And actually I've been talking with him during the off season, and like he sent me pictures of him reading the Bible outside and taking notes. And I texted him, I think like actually last night I was talking to him, and I was like, "You getting a whole lot of Jesus or what?" And he was like, "So much Jesus." And I was like, "Let's go." It's so cool. But yeah, I think Tampa's a really good place to be. I've really been enjoying all the guys that, like my whole draft class, really cool dudes. There's a bunch of Dominicans that I don't understand because I don't speak English, but they're chill. And really been enjoying my time down there. Really been enjoying my time back home, getting to be with you guys and family, and just honestly being back in this environment. Like I like the small town. I don't really like the big cities. I hate cities, but really been enjoying it so far.
You'll do well playing for the Yankees.
Yeah.
Well,
Biggest city in the country.
yeah, I've been there once, and I'll tell you, it was not for me being there. But I wasn't playing baseball, so
That's right.
it's a little different when you're playing for the Yankees, I think.
That's right.
All right, so wrap up your story, because you're still pursuing the same dream you've had for a long time, but now I would say you're pursuing it with a different priority. Whereas, like, I'm sure baseball tries to creep up into that number one slot,
it
but
does for sure sometimes.
But what do you try to keep number one now that you're still pursuing this dream with a new lens?
Well, obviously, my relationship with Christ. And I don't say that for it to be like a cliche, because it's like
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Sunday school
It's
answer.
Great answer.
Ding.
But it's like it's definitely a battle. There's a lot of spiritual battles, and I've realized that a lot more recently with seeing like direct attacks from the devil, not only in my life but in the world right now. The amount of spiritual battle that is like so evidently clear. It's like the devil's not even hiding it anymore. He wants people to know that he's here, and people are following him. But I guess my ultimate goal is to have as good of a relationship with him as I can, with Christ as I can. And I feel like I kind of did lose that for a little bit because I was trying to get other people to him. I realized that recently. It was like I was on my path and other people were on their path beside me. And like, it's like I would walk over to their path and be like, hey, look at God. And I would leave my path.
Mm.
And so recently I've really been like kind of trying to get back in that, making sure my relationship with Jesus is good. And then, you know, helping others along the way as well, if that opportunity arises. And so I guess that's it right there is keeping mine good and then helping others.
I love it. I love it. All right, now give us the rest of your story real quick, because you obviously one dream got taken, but now there's a new dream, or maybe multiple dreams.
Sure. Yeah. So then kind of as all the sports and everything goes away and all these things kind of start to get taken off of the pedestal in my life, it was almost like that there was this moment where I woke up and I was just kind of overwhelmed with what I had been doing, you know, and like what life had looked like. And it was kind of in that moment where I just prayed. I was like, God, like I'm sorry. I repent. Like I've been chasing after all the wrong things. And it's like, I just want a relationship with you, and I want to live a life of obedience and what you're calling me to do and who you're calling me to be. And it was almost like that was kind of like where you could see kind of just the smirk on God's face, where it's like, all right, you know,
finally.
now you're where I want you. Yeah. And then it was like, man, after that, like just the word that I would use to describe kind of that season a couple of years ago was just redemption. It was like redeeming all of the things that I, you know, like relationships, like redemption was what described those, not just in friendships, but in like relationships with girls. That's when I start dating my now wife and get engaged to her, and we get married this past year, and that whole side of it. But then it was like the career side of things. It was like my original kind of hope or whatever that I was offering up to God was like, you know, like give me the impact, give me the people, you know, and then I'll use that in order to point people to you. And it's like now I actually do get to do that, but just in a different context from what I might have originally wanted it to be. And I think now going forward, all like the things that God had for me were so much better than anything that I could have dreamed up or imagined on my own. And so where like our stories kind of split and yours goes the route of, you know, you are achieving the goal and the dream that you have been working for, and mine is not that way. Both of us are fully satisfied in Christ with both hands that we have been dealt there.
Yeah, there's a saying, if God took something you thought you'd never lose, he can give you something you thought you'd never have. And so like you thought you would never lose sports, whatever, or that's at least what you hoped, and then you lose that, and it's like, well, now you have community, and you have people who love you, and you have, you know, a passion that you love. Yeah. And you didn't think that it would go that way.
Right. Yeah. And so now it's like, you know, you say this all the time. It's like the beauty of the Christian walk is that you always have the opportunity to help your former self and somebody else, you know? And it's like now I have the opportunity, like getting to work with young adults at our church here in town. And man, like so many athletes that are on that same path. And I mean, that's the split that they go down too. And so there's guys that I have relationships with like you where it's turning out great. And then there's other guys where it's like I'm having to walk through like this guy's played baseball for 4 or 5 years at this college, and now he's coming back and he's a financial analyst at and he's like, what do I even do with my life, and so I think now, like, for sure, there's a bunch of dreams, there's a bunch of passions, desire, all of these things where, like, I keep having these ideas of, like, how I would hope that God would use me, or things that like I want to do to make an impact in the kingdom. But I think kind of big scope is, like, to make much of Jesus and to help deploy people into the kingdom of God on the mission of God,
All right. Let's take off on Louis.
Yeah, so I was talking about dreams and, like, or new dreams, kind of old dreams going away, right? New dreams going away. And so then I said, there's this Louis Giglio quote, and he says, "Are you willing to trade the leading role in your story for a supporting role in God's story?" And so, talking about, dreams for the future, I want to see people get deployed into a supporting role in God's story, to trade the leading role in theirs for a supporting role in God's, and help them find out that that's actually where they're going to find the most joy, the most purpose, the most meaning, and it's going to be far better than anything that they could have ever imagined for themselves. So.
Yeah. All right, so now let's give people some traits they can take away to help them deal with the chase of the dream, both the highs that are involved with that chase and the lows of it. And some of the traits I've heard y'all talk about: number one, people believing in you, especially you, and then obviously people believing in you and not believing in you. And then both of y'all are the most disciplined people I know. You actually do what you say you're going to do in terms of the habits. Then you take time to actually think. You don't take a lot of time trying to distract yourself away from the thoughts. You actually confront stuff in you, and you take the time to actually do it. You've got the risk-taking ability, and you do things that most people won't do, but also you do things that most people would say you just need to play it safe and don't try to shoot for something big like that. Just take the more predictable path, the more stable, maybe financial path. But you guys do it anyway. Just you go against the odds, because why not? Why not dream big? So add to those traits. What else would you say is going to help somebody chase their dreams and deal with the highs and lows?
I would say obviously having, like, courage and discipline and fearlessness is always good, but I think something that is overlooked is, like, your community around you, because, like, my dad always told me, you are the average of the 5 most people you hang around. And so if you're not hanging around the right crowd, you're going to be doing the wrong things. So I think community is huge, because you have people leading you down the right path. And then also, like, at least in, like, baseball and working out, it's like if you have 5 people around you that are striving for success and that are doing better than you, you're going to want to do better than that. And so it's just going to push you to be even that much better. Whereas if you're always the best guy in the room, you're not going to grow. Everybody else is going to be chasing you. Eventually, they're just going to pass you by.
That's right. Yeah.
Which of those do you want me to answer first?
Any of them. Just go with whatever traits come to mind. We're trying to leave people with tips they can take away, traits they can instill in themselves.
I think one of the most important, maybe the most important, was having somebody older, somebody wiser, who had not necessarily even walked the road that I had been on, but they had been my age, and they were able to look from kind of a bigger perspective, a bigger point of view, see the big picture, and kind of help me navigate through that. And I mean, you were one of those guys, but there were a couple others that I can think of that if it wasn't for guys like you that were pouring into me and kind of helping me navigate through some of those seasons, I probably wasn't going to make the right decision, at least as early on maybe as I did. Not to say that, I mean, I did spend 4 years like chasing the wrong, you know what I mean? But I think that was crucial for me, was having somebody who was older and wiser. And then now, as I'm kind of looking at the generation that's coming after me, it's like I'm 24 years old, and I'm talking about stuff that happened to me when I was 18, 19, 20. Well, I've got an 18-year-old brother, but then just because of what I do in young adult ministry, like here in Chattanooga, I've got tons of 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds that I now have the opportunity to pour back into. And you say this all the time, that the beauty of the Christian walk is that we always have the ability to help our former self in somebody else. And so now I'm just as much as I've gotten to kind of keep walking with guys like you who are older and wiser and continue to get older and wiser. Hate to break it to you, you are getting older, by the day.
We're cutting that out.
Gray hair's coming in a little bit.
It's because of y'all.
Right. But now I get to turn around and pour into somebody else who is in that kind of similar place that I was in. And so I think that like the mentorship aspect is crucial. And then kind of to talk on what you talked about with courage, I can think about when so I came back from Tennessee and finished up my degree at UTC. I have a degree in exercise science, and so I was a strength coach for like 2.5 years before I got into ministry. And I remember whenever I felt kind of the first call towards ministry, like that was the direction that my life was going to start going. As soon as I felt like that was not even confirmed, but like somewhat loud, where it's like, okay, this actually might be what I'm supposed to do, I just quit my job. I stopped. I was like, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, God's called me in this. So yeah, exactly. And so I just quit. And then I found out quickly that I didn't have any money coming in anymore. And so I was like, well, maybe, did I miss something here? Or, and so I mean, really, that was kind of like just diving headfirst into the deep end of a pool that I had no idea how to swim in. And so I kind of picked back up doing a little bit of like personal training on the side. But just in that leap of faith kind of opened up a lot of opportunities for God to really guide in the direction that he was trying to take me. And I think that maybe we've said it already, but that quote that it's always easier to steer a moving ship. It's like, man, like to take the jump and honestly, playing it safe, what the safe option is. You could probably come back to the safe option. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'll be there.
Right. And so take the leap. Like, let's see what happens. What do you have to lose, really? Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, which every time that in anything in my life and any conversation that I've had with somebody who's been in a position kind of like the one that we find ourselves in, even if it doesn't work out, something else always does.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's really our stories, right? It's like we both took these giant leaps towards these athletic dreams and pursuits that we wanted to take. Yours worked out. Mine didn't work out. But I'm in no way saying that my life hasn't worked out. You know, it's like God's clearly had his hand on my life just as much as he's had it on yours. The way that he took me just looked way different. And so from the outside looking in, somebody who's just looking at my athletic career, they're like, man, you failed. Like that was a failure. Like you didn't do what you set out to do. And it's like, I did what I set out to do, and I set out to chase the dream.
Yeah.
I didn't get the dream, but along the way, I caught a vision for something that was far greater than that thing I was initially trying to pursue. And so that's what I would say is like, take the leap, and God's going to do some things, and it may be, feel like some holy sandpaper that's kind of hurting or burning some stuff off of you along the way, but you end up getting on the path that he's trying to get you on.
Man.
Yeah, and another thing on like courage is like, or any really trait that you have or people say that you have is like, people say, oh, well, he's a courageous guy. And it's not that he was just always courageous. You have to be fearful first, and you have to fail first to be courageous. And so people think that it's like, oh, he's just courageous. He's just, all these other traits. And it's like, no, he had the same fear you did. He just acted upon it.
Right.
He just took that leap of faith. And so it's,
That's that quote that's like, courage isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to keep going.
Yeah,
like in the presence
overcome
of it.
fear.
Yeah. I would describe it as courage is not the absence of fear, but it's the presence of faith amidst the fear.
For sure.
Yeah.
Love it.
So
And-
if you are fearful, it's not the end of the world.
That's right.
People think, oh, like, well, now I'm fearful. Now I have doubt. Like, no. Doubt is the alleyway to being successful, because then you have to power through that. And then people say, oh, well, he's this, that, and the other. Makes you look good.
But yeah, and the doubt and the fear is the sign. Those are the signs that you're doing something worthwhile.
Exactly.
For sure.
You're playing it safe if there's no fear and doubt.
You can't be courageous by definition
Yeah.
if there's no fear.
Exactly.
You know?
So put yourself in. Great quote from Coach Potter is always have one foot in uncomfortable and one foot in comfortable. Don't always be 2 feet in either, because you might be over your head with too much discomfort, or if you're obviously in a lot of comfortable situations, you're not going to grow much. So always have 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
All right. Is there anything I didn't ask that y'all want to make sure we cover? Anything like that?
No, you got it all out of me. That's about all I got.
Empty.
That's all
The
you
tank
need.
is
No
empty.
more
Tank is
thoughts.
empty.
Brain's empty.
You got anything?
You want me to tell my, where do you want to take the charge?
Sure.
Push back darkness, establish light.
Do it.
If I could say one more thing, I would kind of going back to the dream and trading the leading role in your story for the supporting role in God's story. The thing that has kind of most impacted me as I think about it this way is that Jesus's whole mission was to to usher back in the kingdom of God into our dark, messed up world. And when he left, when he ascended back to heaven, he gave us that same great commission to go and to make disciples, right? And essentially what that was is it was kind of a repackaging of the original commission that God gave Adam to be fruitful and multiply, to fill the earth and to conquer it, subdue it. And that idea of conquering the earth was essentially taking the Garden of Eden and spreading it out, pushing back the darkness, the chaos, and establishing light and order all across the world. And so, Jesus, when he's talking to Peter, and he asks Peter, who do you say I am? And Peter's like, you're the Messiah. And he's like, blessed are you, Peter. This is going to be your name now, which means rock. And he's like, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail. Well, gates are a defensive structure. And so we, the church, are the ones who are supposed to be doing the attacking. We are the ones who are supposed to take the kingdom of light and push back against the kingdom of darkness, to push the darkness back and to establish new ground for the light, for the kingdom of God. And so the way that I like to think about it is, where do you want to push back darkness to establish light? If that is our commission, if that is our mission that God has deployed us into, then where are you going to take back ground for the kingdom of God? And so for you, it might be on a baseball field. It might be in a locker room. It might be whatever avenues that you're going to have access to that I don't have access to because I don't play for the Yankees, but I have opportunities that you probably won't have the opportunity to do, partly because we're going to be living in different places and doing different things and have different passions and desires. But God has uniquely placed us and uniquely wired us for this exact moment in history where he has placed us, right? And so what has he placed you on this earth to do? What are the passions, the desires, the things that he has given you that you want to go and push back darkness and establish light and make an impact for the kingdom of God in your life?
Yeah, and I also think that, like, this notion that being a Christian is like rainbows and butterflies, and it's always you're always in peace. Like, no, we're supposed to have like spears and axes and be chasing down those gates of hell, knocking them down so that we can spread, us throughout everybody, and like you said, knock down those gates of hell.
To fight, to war.
Yeah. One of God's names is warrior, so
Come on.
we got that in us too.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've solved everything.
Yep.
That's right.
World hunger.
That's next.
Part
Yes.
two. All right. Appreciate y'all. That
Yeah.
was fun.
Yep.
Hey, thanks so much for being here today. I hope you got a lot out of our conversation with Austin and Kris. There's more yet to come with these guys in future episodes. And for now, Get my book Tough Enough so you can really dive in and become the man you're meant to be.